Hi, I'm Tushar Gupta. This is my project for the CS 5610 web development course. My team partners for this project are Amul Mehta and Rohan Sapre. So, when we had to think about an idea for the project, one day we were thinking over dinner about the difficulties we face while we are giving interviews. So, from our perspective, the applicant's perspective, the biggest challenges when we give interviews are the disjoint entities that we have to face. For example, first we talk to the recruiter over Gmail, then we set up an appointment, then the interviewer mails us separately with a link to a collaborated or a coderpad page if it is a technical interview, or a Skype ID if it is not a technical interview. Then we have an interview with the interviewer, and we cannot have Skype and collaborate simultaneously. Like, it is really tough to do both of them together. And then after the interview ends, we again have to get back in touch with the recruiter about the results. So, like, the very basic problem with this is that everything is disjoint. We have to keep track of a lot of things simultaneously, and if we miss just one of them, then it becomes really hard. Again, that is our perspective. From the recruiter's perspective, a recruiter has to manage all of the candidates and the interviewers along with the open positions on the email. The email was never meant for this. It is not a good solution when you have to keep track of so many candidates and interviewers and positions in the very basic textual tabular format. Similarly, for the interviewers, the current process may not be the most suitable, because it is quite possible that the interview they are taking, the person has some external help which they cannot see on the collab edit because there is no video. So, with this in mind, we created our project solicitar.io. Solicitar is a Spanish word for which means to apply. So this is a one-stop solution for all the interview problems that we face. The project has three actors. The first is the recruiter. A recruiter can add job postings. He or she can add candidates to a job posting, as well as interviewers who will take the interviews. The second actor of our project is the interviewer. He can see the candidates whose interview he has to take in the near future. A candidate will set up the availability, and he can finalize the time at which he wants to take an interview. He can see the next interview that he's scheduled to take, and it will show the position that it is for. He can see all his upcoming and the past interviews. The third actor of the project is the candidate. The candidate can see the next interview, all his upcoming and the past interviews. Also, the candidate has a profile in which he can upload his resume and the cover letter. In the next section, we will show you the data model of our project. In this section of the video, I will talk about our data model and the technology stack we are using. So, our project is based on the MVC framework, and we have used the mean stack, which stands for MongoDB, Express.js, AngularJS, and Node.js, for implementing it. On the screen, you can see our data model. Our data model has 8 tables. The center table is the most important, which is the user table. The user can be either of the following. It can be an applicant, an interviewer, or a recruiter. The distinction is made by the field type in the user table. A user can have a user ID, which is auto-generated object ID, username, password, email, first name, last name, type. Type is an enum, which has 3 possibilities: applicant, interviewer, or recruiter. Organization, it is a string. Status. Status suggests the position of the candidate in the current interview process. It can have several values such as invited, joined, scheduled when the candidate has given his interview schedule, so on and so forth. Then we have a picture, resume, cover letter, which are three files that the candidate can upload, the Facebook and the Google accounts which he can link and use to sign in, and the date created. The user table is central to all the other tables in our data model. Then we have a table called, if you look at the top left, we have a table called calendar. The calendar suggests the interview time for a candidate. It has the user, position, start time, end time, and the date created. Then there is another table on the left which is called candidate. Candidate is a mapping table to map the number of candidates against a position in the system. So it takes a position and it can have many applicants for that position. Then on the top middle we have a table called position. The position table has information about the particular position which has openings. So it would have the name of the recruiter who created that position. It has the name of the position and the location of the position. Then if we move towards the right, top right, there is a table called result. The result stores the information of the result of the interview. It takes in an object, interview, which contains the details of the interview, which is another table in itself, which is on the bottom right, which I will just come back in a minute. Then it has a rating. The interviewer can rate the candidate on on a scale of 1 to 10 for the interview. Then there is a boolean called selected, which can either be true or false. Then the next table is schedule. The schedule table is created or is fed values when the applicant has set his timings for the interview and the interviewer has selected one of those timings to actually schedule the interview. So it has an applicant, an interviewer, a position, and two values, which are the start time and the end time. Our last table in our data model is the interview table. The interview table has an interview ID. It takes in a schedule parameter, which is an object of the schedule table. Then in our project we are using Firebase API, Twilio API, and an API for calculating results or the output of a compiled program. So it takes in their specific IDs so that if one user is giving an interview, his ID or his FirePad or his CoderPad does not clash with any other user who is also giving an interview on the same system. Then the student can give a feedback and the recruiter can also give a feedback. That is all about the data model. In the next section, we will go ahead and actually look and see how our project works. I'm going to give you a demonstration of the website. The website will have three actors. I will have one recruiter, one interviewer, and one candidate to demonstrate how it works. So I will log in with the recruiter. Now this is my recruiter's dashboard. I can see that I have 0 job openings right now. I have 1 interviews on the panel and my company name to which I belong. Now I will go to job postings. I will add a new opening. Let's ask for a software developer. In Mountain View. So now the job opening has been created and I can add candidates for this position. So now I will go to view candidates. Then I will have some add candidate functionality here. I will have to add the first name, the last name, and the email of the candidate to which I would like to invite to the interview. So let's start. So I'm going to invite myself to this interview, and because we are using the MailChimp's API here, I'm going to show you how that works. So I add my email address, I do add person, I can have multiple email addresses right here simultaneously, and I'll do a send invitations. So when I do a send invitation, it sends the invitation to my email address, and after it has done that and created a new user in the database, it displays it here. So here I can see my current status as invited, and I can attach an interviewer to this candidate. But first, let's see if our MailChimp works. So as I can see, right at this time, I have got an email from my colleague Rohan inviting me to an interview. So here I have an option to do a register now. And so now what I'll do is I'll go back to the website and try to register as a candidate. So I'll do a logout. I'll go to, because I'm a new user, I need to sign up first. If I try to log in, I do not have a username or a password yet. So I need to create that. So when I go to sign up, I'll enter my credentials as provided by the recruiter. I'll choose a username. Let's choose C1. This email, this is where we validate the functionality. So if this email is anything apart from what the recruiter has invited, it won't proceed. So then I will choose a password and I'll do a register. So now, as soon as I do a register, I get automatically logged in to my dashboard. So now I can see no recent upcoming interview. There is a fine line between a recent upcoming interview and all upcoming interviews. So now, currently I won't be able to see any interviews because I have not been assigned a an interviewer yet. So now when the recruiter logs in, he can see his job openings, candidates, and as soon as I assign an interviewer to a candidate here, it's been assigned. So now, okay, and one more thing, I can only assign the interviewer once. So if I go back here, now I won't be able to select it again because I can only do it once. So now as I have assigned the interviewer to this candidate, I'll do a logout and I'll log back in with the candidate and I'll be able to see it in my upcoming interviews. Right there. So in my upcoming interviews, I can see I've been invited for an interview for the software developer position with the interviewer Tommy Hilfiger, and interview date is yet to schedule. So now I will provide my availability to the interviewer and he will finalize when he wants to take the interview. So now I go to schedule interview. Let's schedule it for today in an hour's time. So that should be fine. Let's start it at 9. So this is my availability. I can provide my availability for any date from any start time to any end time, and my program will automatically break it to 1 hour intervals for the interviewer to select. So I can do an end time of, say, I'm available till 8 in the morning. So now I'll do a select time. I can add more dates and more start time and end times, but what I'll do is I'll do a submit. So now my interviewer has been notified of my availability. So now let's log out from the candidate and let's log in for the first time with the interviewer. So the recruiter has created an interviewer whose credentials I'm going to enter, and I'm going to sign in. Now I can see no recent upcoming interview because I haven't provided a schedule yet. So I'll go to upcoming interviews. I can see, oh yeah, I have an upcoming interview, right? Okay, so that's for software developer position. Let's see the candidates. Okay, so I have to interview Tushar Gupta. Right, so what I'll do is I'll do a scheduled interview. Now I can see that Tushar Gupta can give the interview between 2:12 and 8:12. So let's set his interview for 2:12. And let's end it at 3:12. Now this is the final button for schedule. So now when I press this, it's successfully scheduled. So now in my dashboard, I can see my next upcoming interview. The dashboard will only show the next upcoming interview. I can see it is with Tushar Gupta for the position, at this location. The start time is 2:12 a.m. and I can see my schedule for all the upcoming interviews I have. So now let's see how the interview goes. So I have opened two windows here. I have to open it stacked on top of each other because of the functionality that we have. I'll talk about it in a moment. So now this is the interviewer. I can always do a start interview right here, or I can do a start interview from here. So now let's log in as the candidate. This is all running on the server, so I'll again open the website solicitar.ml, and I'll log in as the candidate. So now in my candidate's dashboard, I can see I have an interview with Tommy Hilfiger for this position at this location, which is going to start at 2:12. So now let's do a start interview. So okay, let's start. So this is on the top, this is the interviewer. On the bottom, it is the candidate. So start interview. So when I do a start interview, a lot of things happen in the background. One of them is that I'm allotted a video chat room, which is unique to this interview. Again, I get a FirePad CoderPad version whose ID is again unique to this interview. You can see that this is the interviewer's video, which you are able to see on your screen right now. Now let the candidate also begin the interview. So this is from the candidate side, and I do a start interview. Right, so here on the top this is the interviewer, on the bottom this is the candidate. Both of them are able to interview on the solicitar.ml website. So this is the video part on the left hand side. Here we have Python as the language, and you can code. So this coder pad is working simultaneously on both the screens. So whatever I do on one will automatically be typed on the other screen. So on the top is the interviewer and on the bottom is the candidate. They can both compile the code separately. So when I do a compile code from the interviewer, he can see his output here, but not the candidate. So he can see the output. Now again, I can compile the code for the candidate. Let's remove this. So you see they're both happening simultaneously. Now I do compile. It will only compile on the candidate's end. So that's the output. So this is on the left, the video is being streamed with the Twilio API, and this coder pad is working with the Google FirePad API. For this console output, we have used another API, Sphere Online, which generates the output for us. So now let's do an interview separately. So now that we are done with the interview, I'll give you a brief overview of the various parts of the user interface in our project. So let's start with the candidate. So I have logged in with the candidate, and I can see that he has no more upcoming interviews now. I can go to the profile and I can update the profile picture. I can change email, first name and last name. I can add resumes and cover letters. So I'll give you a brief demo about uploading a cover letter. So I go to browse. I'll choose a picture. I'll choose a PDF file, and I'll open it. Then I'll do an upload. So that will upload it to the server, and the next time I'm there, it will display that to me. So now I can see the two PDFs I have right here. Also, in the candidate, I can see my upcoming and the past interviews, which there are none right now. Then next, I'll log in with the recruiter. So as a recruiter, I can see the job openings, I can see my interviewers, I can see which company I work for. I also have a profile. I can add a profile picture. I can change my email, first name and last name. Also, I can add new job postings and new interviewers. For the interviewer, I'm sorry. I can see the next recent upcoming interview. I can see my profile. I can change my profile as I wish. I can see my upcoming interviews and I can see my schedule. That is the UI part. Now I'll give you a brief overview about the admin of our project. So the admin can view the candidates. Okay, so you can see there are 5 candidates right now. So 2 of them on the top have joined. Then there is this who is ready. Then another join, another ready. I can delete a candidate. That will just delete the candidate, or I can update the fields of the candidate. Also, I can see all the interviewers that exist in my system. So these are the interviewers that exist in my system. This was the interviewer with which in the last section of the video, I showed you how to take an interview. Again, I can do a delete or an update operation on any interviewer, and I can view all the recruiters. So these are my recruiters. I can do an add recruiter. So I can add any recruiter details here, or I can add an interviewer. Every interviewer need to have assigned a recruiter which I have to provide from the list. So this is the admin section of our project. I hope you like the project. Thank you.